vicarious trauma, some strategies for mitigating the effects of working close to your trauma. Boundaries, taking time off, like having work days, leaving work at work, time in nature, friends, family, hobbies, and signs that you're being impacted by vicarious trauma could be things like not being able to do those things, not being able to sort of step away from work, even though logistically you might be able to, losing interest in hobbies and not seeing friends or family, not really having an interest in socializing, change in eating habits, drink habits, drugs, alcohol, self-medicating in that way, sleep problems. So I'm going to show one diagram first of thinking about a web of social support and internal, environmental resources one can draw from. Take my stick. Alright, so thinking of a kind of mandala. Put yourself in the centre. Things that you care about that are close to you go near to that. So it might be family, partner, art. For me, I would have art for sure. Might have nature. Might have religion. You might have work. Maybe you have a pet, a good friend, colleague, a mentor, and perhaps a job that gives you a sense of purpose or financial stability. Be different for everyone, you know. Somebody might have religion very close in here, and time in nature, music, animals. You know, this might represent home, as in the house they live in if they've had to leave their home country. You know, friends might be a larger part of it. So that's the personal mandala. That's one thing that we can do. Another quite helpful exercise can be just like prioritizing. So if you have like urgent, important, and then the other side would be not urgent and not important. You could put your to-do list like mapped on here. So it might be make video on vicarious trauma. To me it's kind of important and I want to do it quite soon, but it's not like that urgent or important. Nobody's asking me for it. I don't have an obligation. If I'm doing this in-house for an organisation, yeah, it's probably going to go more important and more urgent depending when it's due, but for now it might be down here. Yeah, so basically something might be very important and not urgent and be constantly overlooked. Something might be urgent and not important and it's taking priority. So it can just help to keep a focus on that, and you aim to spend most of your time on the important stuff. It's been quite stormy here. There's already exercises on YouTube under my little adventure art therapist name that can be helpful for mind-body connection. So sometimes when we're feeling tired tired, burned out, working lots of trauma, you might start to slump, our breath might become more shallow. So if you like really open up the chest and be aware of, bring your shoulders back down, be aware of your posture, your breath, then you're unmirroring a posture that could be quite familiar to somebody who has suffered from trauma, who's like hunched up and wanting to hide. Babette Rothschild has a wonderful book, Help the Helper, I think it's called, which referenced in a recent training at EMDR UK on this subject. Oliver Wright came up with that resource for the people that we're working with, and share the idea that we can actually mirror somebody's posture, and then we have mirror neurons that actually can make us start to feel a similar way to how they might be. So if we deliberately unmirror that posture, and perhaps we can then give an influence of a less traumatized way of presenting, which if the body is doing that, the mind is going to be in tandem too. The mind's going to be influenced. Often when people need to take a break and maybe starting to be getting a little run down, coming in danger of vicarious trauma or moving towards burnout, that's when it can get really hard to switch off or to step away. If you have colleagues, you can feed back at the end of the day so people aren't left holding somebody's story or worrying about somebody's safety that night. That's really important. In the UK, using the safeguarding leads in organisations you're with, or social services if you're independent. If you're in a country that doesn't have those kind of resources, then your colleagues are really important, and you find people in the community that you are able to share concerns with. And a key point is remembering that you're not there to save people. You're there to support, to guide, to serve, to help. But if you feel like you need to save people and it's all on you, then you're really not going to last very long in most of the helping roles that I'm familiar with. This will do for now. Might just be one more little diagram. This has actually come from Hazel Findley's climbing. So she does full practice. Can you see? Yeah, she does full practice coaching for climbers. But I really like this in relation to work situations, all kinds of different personal situations. So you have your comfort zone, have a stretch zone, and a panic zone. So the more time you spend in your comfort zone, the whole circle shrinks. If you're in your panic zone, also the circle's going to shrink, but also it's going to feel a really uncomfortable place to be. But if you spend time in your stretch zone, then the circle gets bigger. If you spend time in your stretch zone, your comfort zone gets bigger. Let's make all of that stretch zone, and your panic zone becomes further away. So spending all the time in the comfort zone, you might look something like that, kind of. If you're in your panic zone, the panic zone is going to be thicker, less stretch zone. But if you're in your comfort zone, step out into your stretch zone, work here, stretch zone gets bigger, and you stay away from the panic zone. If you go into the panic zone, you want to move back to the comfort zone and then gradually start working in your stretch zone again. Idea being that even if we're in our panic zone and it goes okay, if you fall off a climb, you'll be partner gives you a nice soft catch, everything's fine. but you still remember it was a really horrible thing that happened that you want to avoid. And the same could go with work. If you're pushing yourself past your stretch zone into your panic zone, you're not sure if you can cope with this, or you know, you're working with people that are so traumatized, and so many of them like can be particularly difficult if you're working with children a lot of the time who are suffering from trauma. Then you might go into your panic zone and end up having to quit, or you know, go on sick leave, burnout. But if you're in your stretch zone, you know, okay, this is getting a bit much now, I need to step back, get back into my comfort zone, and then you back into your stretch zone when you're ready. This is a much more sustainable model. I've used this for climbing, used it for quite a lot of different sports. Like, I'm not very good at skiing, but in Albania you can get to ski quite easily, so it's getting along like, hey, you know, I'm in my stretch zone, it's okay, I'm in my stretch zone, happy with this. Then, you know, lots of mist, lots of snow coming down, okay, like, a bit much for me, go to the cafe, back to my comfort zone, and then like get on one of the easier slopes, and once it stops snowing. So you know, it applies to lots of different situations, but I think in terms of vicarious trauma, self-care, well-being, just being mindful of where are you, comfort zone, stretch zone, panic zone. All right, if panic zone is where you're approaching burnout, let's get back to the stretch zone. How might you do that? Take a day off, see friends, family, eat a good meal, rest, go for a swim. Okay, now you get back into your stretch zone. So yeah, thanks to Hazel Finley for that one. And yeah, let's see if this video can be put to use.